Welcome Nightfarers to the Ningen Plays channel, where we will be breaking down all 8 of the playable characters in Elden Ring Nightreign in these individual guide videos to help you decide which of them is right for you to jump in and face the challenges of the night. Today we are going to be talking about Executor, the Nightfarer who brings the samurai aesthetic that has been present in every Souls game as well as Elden Ring, whilst also drawing heavily from Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, another hit from Software title, and its infamous parry system. This character will have a high skill ceiling and is certainly not for the faint of heart. Parrying has always been a feature in Soulsborne games, but this has been to turn a specific enemy attack into a knockdown for a big counter. With Executor, much like in Sekiro, you will need to time your button presses in order to deflect each enemy attack as it comes in. Now, Executor scales heavily with Dex and Arcane, meaning not only can they wield Dex weapons to great effect, but can build up status effects very quickly. Rivers of Blood, anyone? The nightmare of Elden Ring PvP. It's going to be very interesting to get that weapon equipped on this character and have bleed build up just flying out everywhere. Now, this character was not available during the network test and has only recently been revealed. Only officially revealed on social media a few days ago, and they were allowed to be played during a special streaming event that took place in the last couple of days. It was a special Red Bull event. 3 teams of 3 streamers played Nightreign for a few hours, and in that stream were allowed to use Executor for the first time. However, there hasn't been an in-depth info dump on exactly how all of the abilities function, and after doing some research and checking into VODs and breakdowns that other people have made, it seems like not all of the abilities were fully utilized by the streamers during this time, which is a bit of a disappointment, right? Like, being able to use those characters for the first time, you would think you'd want to fully dive in and explore every aspect. So we will do our best to break down everything we do know about this character and how their abilities work as of right now, but there are a few minor details that are still unclear, but I will cover those as we talk about each of the abilities. So Executor's passive is called Tenacity, and the description is receive boost when cleansed from status ailments. So it's pretty self-explanatory in terms of how it works, which is when you remove a status effect from yourself by using an item or other such effect, you will receive a boost. Now, I believe it is an attack boost. It hasn't been made 100% clear. Like I say, there has been no official post on exactly what the buff is, but essentially you do receive a buff of some kind when curing a status effect. So depending on the area you're in and the enemies you're fighting and what potential status effects they can cause, making sure you've managed to collect some items that will remove these from you is going to be very beneficial, especially in some of the tougher battles. So this one is interesting. It's kind of situational, because obviously if you are fighting a boss that doesn't really have a status effect that they can put onto you, then this kind of doesn't come into play. But there could be an interesting combo of if there are any items that you can use. Souls games and even Elden Ring have always had items, consumables, that can be used whether they're weapons or not, but that also as a side effect cause status effects to you. So you could essentially, with the right combo of items, if you've managed to collect them, be able to give yourself a status effect and then remove it in order to give yourself this buff. So that is certainly very interesting. So the main ability, and this is the true bread and butter of this character, is the Cursed Sword. The description: deflect enemy attacks with a special stance. So it's a little bit more complicated than that. In essentially, we've seen katana weapons in Souls games ever since weapon arts were introduced, having this ability where the weapon art essentially puts you into a stance, very often like a sheathed stance for some of the original katanas. And essentially this is similar to what the Executor does. You go into the Cursed Sword stance, and you can still attack in this stance. You can still light attack, heavy attack. I believe you can still dodge as normal. However, the block button can now be used for parrying. So essentially, just like Sekiro, the whole sort of aspect of this character, which I do really like, by the way, sort of bringing in this idea of a Sekiro playstyle into a Souls game. So you will essentially have to hit the block button to parry at the right time that the enemy attacks, and then you will deflect the attack, you won't take damage, and you slowly but surely charge the Cursed Blade. Now, there's been no clear description on whether the stronger the attack, the more the charge. I do know that big attacks, like you've seen with blocking big attacks from big enemies with shields, will often knock a character back or knock them over. Deflecting a big attack like that with the Executor Cursed Blade will cause you to be knocked back in sort of a cool, unique backflip animation, but you do still deflect the attack, not take damage, and add charge to the Cursed Blade. And essentially, the way the Cursed Blade looks, it's like a katana with a sort of almost like shell around it, and as you deflect the attacks, you slowly but surely break this shell away from the blade until it's fully broken away and the blade glows gold, and that allows you to then perform powerful sweeping attacks with the fully charged sword. So this is certainly very, very interesting, because if you can get the hang of this and like get this parrying system down, you will not only be able to obviously wade into combat and not take damage, but very quickly and repeatedly build up this cursed sword charge and then unleash its powerful attacks. So this is the true core of this character, and is certainly going to be very interesting to get to grips with. The final ability is of course the ultimate ability, which is Aspect of the Crucible Beast. Assume the form of the primordial beast. So those of you who've played Elden Ring obviously will be familiar with the Aspect of the Crucible, which were usually weapon arts that you could equip, and those would give you various like one-shot attacks that were based on various different transformations, certain forms, usually of a particular body part or like a ghostly essence or something like that. Whereas this ability for the Executor fully transforms them into a giant beast. Now, from what we know from the playtest from the stream event, this transformation lasts for around 15 seconds. I'm not sure if that can be boosted in any way, but it seems to be for around that kind of time. And the character, when transformed into the beast, has a few different attacks. So it's usually large swiping attacks that can be comboed into a big sort of slam attack, potentially the heavy attack as well. The description that was given when talked about during the streaming event is the character also has like a big horn attack, potentially like a heavy attack uppercut or something similar, as well as a roar, which could potentially be either a buff to you and allies or a debuff to the enemy. But unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, this was one of the abilities that seemingly just wasn't used or wasn't really talked about during the streaming event, so we don't know the full details of what that does. But when transformed into the beast, you can attack, you have this roar, which could again potentially be a buff or a debuff of some kind. Now, you can still take damage, but you do get a largely increased health bar, so it's very interesting. You can just kind of wade in and start dealing damage, and then once you transform back into the Executor, then obviously back to the playstyle as normal, which I think is cool because it's two very different playstyles in one, right? As the beast, you're not worrying about parrying and building up and timing your attacks. You just kind of unleash the beast and let loose with the attacks, which is very, very cool. So Executor has a lot of interesting things going for him: a skill-based combat system that rewards precision play, and an ultimate that allows you to charge in swinging with that very different playstyle. I think this is a character that is going to be a lot of fun if you put the time in to master the cursed sword stance and parrying enemies' attacks. Remember as well that at heart, Executor is a dex build style character, so whilst he does have more base HP than another dex Nightfarer like Duchess, he's not a tank, right? He cannot just soak up punishment while swinging away with the weapon. Precision is key, so getting to grips with that stance and the parrying is going to be the true key to mastering Executor and having a lot of fun and a lot of stylish moments with him in the game. So I am very much looking forward to getting to grips with him and figuring out the best way to use him, mastering that parry stance. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Does Executor sound like a character that you are going to be excited to play? Are you looking forward to something maybe a little bit more simple? Let me know what you think and who you will be playing as when Nightreign releases on May the 30th. Do like the video, subscribe to the channel, check out the other guides, and I will see you guys out there. Peace out.